Students, so in the previous lectures I was discussing about 8051 microcontroller pin configuration. So we'll continue with the same topic in this lecture also. In the last lecture I discussed about port 2 pins and how they can be configured as input and output port pins. And in the last lecture I told you that I'll be discussing about the dual role of port 2. So as you can see, let's discuss about the dual role of port 2. As you can see, the pin configuration of 8051 microcontroller, that these are the port 2 pins. These are the port 2 pins, and you can see with the port 2 pins, like port 2 0 we have written A, port 2 1 I have written A9, then port 2 I have written 10, then port 2 3 I have written A11. And so in this way you can see there are dual role of this port 2 pins. So in many systems based on 8051 microcontroller, this port 2 is used as simple input output that I've already discussed. However, in the 8031 based systems, port 2 must be used along with port 0 to provide the 16-bit address for external memory. That is what I'm trying to say, that since this 8051 or 8031 can be connected to an external memory, that is, it can be connected to it has the capability of accessing 64 kilobytes of external memory, or you can say it can be connected to 64 kilobytes of external memory. So this port 2 along with this port 0 pins are used for providing the 16-bit address for external memory. So this port is also designated as A8 to A15, indicating its dual function. Since an 8051 or 8031 microcontroller is capable of accessing 64 kilobytes of external memory, so this external memory, it needs a path for 16 bits of address. So while this port 0 provides the lower 8 bits, that is A0 to A7, it is the job of port 2 to provide A8 to A15 of the address. So the whole 16-bit address of external memory is provided by port 2 and port 0. Port 2 will give you the lower byte of the address, and port 0 will give you the lower byte of the address, and port 2 will give the higher byte of the address. In other words, when 8051 or 8031 is connected to the external memory, what is the function of port 2? Port 2 is used for upper 8 bits of the 16-bit address, and it can also be used for input output operations, simple input output operations. So this is how port 2 has dual role, that is, it can be used for input output operations also, as well as it can be used for providing the upper 8 bits of the 16-bit address of external 64 kilobytes of memory. Similarly, port 0, it has I've told you that it also has dual functions, like it can be used as simple input output, or it can be used for providing the lower byte of the address of external 64 kilobytes of memory. Now next port that I'm going to discuss is port 3. This is the port 3. So port 3 occupies a total of 8 pins, that is pin number 10 through pin number 17. This 8 pins, pin number 10 through pin number 17. It can be used as input or output pins. This port 3 pins can be used as input or output pins. Port 3 does not need any pull-up resistors, just as P1 and P2 did not. Although port 3 is configured as an input port upon reset, but this is not the way it is most commonly used. So port 3 has the additional function of providing some extremely important signals such as interrupts. As you can see, these are the various additional functions of port 3 pins. So port 3 pins can be used as input or output, as well as it has additional functions also. It provides some extremely important signals such as interrupts. So this table provides the alternate functions of port 3. So as you can see, this port 30 pin is RxD. This is the 10th pin. As you can see from the 8051 microcontroller pin configuration, that port 30 is the 10th pin. So port 30, it is the 10th pin. This 10th pin is RxD. So additional function of port 30 is RxD. And what is the full form of RxD? It is serial data receive pin, which is for serial input. That is through this port 30 pin, that is through this pin, microcontroller receives data for serial communication. Then comes port 31 pin. So this port 31 pin is the additional function of this port 31 pin is TXT. So the full form is serial data transmit pin. So which is serial output pin. So through this pin, microcontroller transmits data for serial communication. Similarly, port 32 and port 30. These are the 12 and 13 pins of 8051 microcontroller. As you can see, P32 and P30, these are the 12 and 13 pin of 8051 microcontroller pin configuration. So this 12 and 13 pins are for external hardware interrupt 0 and external hardware interrupt 1 respectively. And when this interrupt is activated, that is when it is low, any of the interrupt is low, 8051 gets interrupted in whatever it is doing and jumps to the vector value of the interrupt. That is, if external interrupt 0 is activated, then this 8051 microcontroller will get interrupted in whatever it is doing and it will jump to the vector value of the interrupt, that is 0003H for this interrupt 0, and starts performing interrupt service routine from this vector location. Similarly, when the interrupt, when this external interrupt 1 is activated, then again 8051 gets interrupted in whatever it is doing and jumps to the vector value of the interrupt, that is 0013 in hexadecimal format, 0013. It jumps to this vector value of the interrupt and starts performing interrupt service routine from this vector location. So these are the this is the function of port 32 and port 33 pin. Now next comes port 34 and port 35 pin. So this 14th and 15th pin, as you will observe that these are the 14th and 15th pin of 8051 microcontroller pin configuration. So these are for timer 0 and timer 1 external interrupt. That is, this timer 0, timers can be connected. So sorry, that is, this pins can be, this P34 and P35 pins can be connected with 16-bit timer or counter. So I'll be discussing about the timer and counter in my later lectures. So you just get this idea that this 16-bit timer and counter can be connected to this P34 or P35 pin. Next pin is P36. So this is WR bar, and this is the 16th pin of 8051 microcontroller pin configuration. It is for external memory write. That is, it is used for writing data to the external memory that is connected to the 8051 microcontroller. So whatever external memory is connected to the 8051 microcontroller, this pin is used for writing data to the external memory. Next pin is P37, that is for RD. This pin is used for reading data from the external memory. So these are the additional functions of port 3 pins. Now this was all about the 4 ports, that is port 0, port 1, port 2, port 3 pins. So out of the 40 pin of 8051 microcontroller, the 32 pins are reserved for this ports. So I've already discussed about this port pins. Now next I'll be discussing the rest of the pins. So next pin is pin number 9, that is RST pin. You can see This is the pin number 9. This is RST pin. So it is an active high pin. That is, if the RST pin is high for a minimum of 2 machine cycles, the microcontroller will be reset. That is, during this time the oscillator must be running. During this time oscillator must be running, and if this RST pin is high for a minimum of 2 machine cycles, then microcontroller, this 8051 microcontroller, will be reset. So I'll be discussing about the rest of the pins in my next lecture. I'm ending this class here. Thank you.